What's going on, wrestling family? Welcome back to the channel. It is time for me to react to your SmackDown hot takes, and at the end of the video I will give you guys my own personal hot take, and I cannot wait to hear what you guys have to say. And if you want to be a part of the next video, hit the subscribe button, and after Raw and SmackDown, check out the community tab. I will post there when it is time to submit your hot takes, and I'll try to get to as many as I can. But without further ado, let's get into these. Charlotte Flair returns at SummerSlam, confronts the winner of Bayley versus Nia. Now, I think that there is a high probability that Charlotte Flair could return really soon, because from what I've read, all indicators show that she's either close to or ready to return to the ring. So I think it could either happen at SummerSlam or it could happen at the SmackDown following SummerSlam. Now, I would like for it to happen at SummerSlam because they want to promote the one for next year, but for some reason my gut tells me that if it happens soon, it's going to happen on that SmackDown. But either way, it's fine. Now, as far as her confronting the winner of Bayley versus Nia, I'm sorry, Charlotte Flair fans, that's probably not going to be a good idea. I know it looks great to you guys. I know it sounds great. You want your queen to win, but for her to return and then confront the champion, I feel like that leaves a bad taste, because she already has a reputation of returning and instantly getting handed a title match shortly after her return, and more than likely taking the title off the other person. And I don't think that that should happen in this case. Like, if Bayley does retain at SummerSlam, I really feel like that she should go in other directions to help build other stars on the main roster that really haven't been getting the opportunity. Like, for instance, Candice LeRae. I feel like she's severely underrated and severely underutilized, and that will be great for Candice LeRae, for Bayley to build her up. And if she does win the title off of Bayley, that'll be even better for Candice LeRae before we even talk about going after having a Charlotte Flair situation. And if Nia Jax does retain, depending on that whole situation, I think that there's other options for her as well. Now, what I would like to see is a Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair match if Tiffany Stratton does turn babyface because of her whole relationship with Nia Jax, or even if not, if they want to do a heel versus heel match, I'm fine with it. I think a Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair for no title would be a banger in my opinion. But as I said, it will be great for Charlotte to return, but not for the title right now. Just give other people a chance to build up that women's division on the main roster, which I think they should. And you know, we'll talk about Charlotte going after a title maybe 6 months to a year from now. The Bloodline is not winning the tag team titles next week, because Jimmy Uso is going to return and cost them the match. Now, I've seen a lot of people online talk about this scenario, and they actually believe that this is going to happen. But for me, I feel like there's only a small bright spot in this entire scenario here, and that's the opportunity to allow DIY to breathe a little bit with their title reign, to add a couple more days to their title reign, because ever since the Bloodline 2.0 won the gauntlet on SmackDown and this match was booked between them and DIY, that pretty much solidified that DIY's title reign is going to be cut short really soon, and to have Jey Uso interfere in this match is just going to delay the inevitable. So it's going to bring you to the point where you're just like, okay, should we allow DIY to keep going for like 5, 6, 7, maybe one more week before Bloodline takes it off of them, or should we put them out their misery this upcoming SmackDown? Now, the thing is with Jimmy Uso, if he does do this, if he does return and cost them the title, I don't think the Bloodline is going to allow him just to get out of there. I think they're going to give him the Metro Boomin. They're going to hit him with the beats, and then he's going to be hurt once again. So how do you explain that situation as well? And if that is the case, if they do cost the match for the Bloodline, it makes you wonder, why would they have this whole gauntlet just to have the Bloodline go in there and then do this, outside of the fact that they want a storyline thing to happen? If they were going to do this, why not give another tag team an opportunity from the gauntlet and then allow DIY to at least get one more win under their belt as the title holders at this point, as opposed to just doing this whole thing? But I mean, if it happens this way, then the thing is, one of my smaller gripes in this era of WWE is what they do with the tag team titles. And with that being said, I guess that would kind of make sense, and I'll elaborate on that a little bit more on another hot take, because one of the hot takes are talking about the tag titles. But yeah, if this happens, I wouldn't be surprised. Triple H needs to learn how to book the women's and men's tag team division. Wow. So it's, for me, it's not a thing of whether he needs to learn how to not. I think he's fully capable of doing it, because back in the day during the NXT Black and Gold era, he made those tag team titles feel just as prestigious as any other title on that roster. So he is fully capable and he knows how to do it. But if you just started watching Triple H as of lately as far as his work, then I can understand why you feel like that he doesn't know what he's doing, because it feels feels like tag teams, the whole tag team division on both sides is just an afterthought at this point. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, if you look at the actual tag teams, when they win championships or when they win a title, they either barely defend it or barely do anything. Look at the A-Town Down Under title run. Look at the Awesome Truth. Look at DIY. You know, their title reign is going to end sometime soon. They haven't done anything memorable with those title reigns since the WrestleMania match between the Usos and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Like, it just feels like they don't care anymore. It don't feel like it did when the Usos had the titles for a while. It doesn't feel like it did when the New Day had the titles. Even when the Bar had the title, it just doesn't feel the same anymore. And it feels like right now that they relegate the importance of those tag team titles to being plot beats for stories when it comes to the factions. Just like when Finn and Damian Priest were tag team champions, it felt like they defended it a lot more and they were on a lot more PLEs as opposed to the tag team titles right now. And that's another hot take that someone's talking about. We're to get into that too. Or right now when JD McDonough and Finn Balor are tag team champions, just to play into the plot of the whole thing going on with the Judgment Day. And as we see, we're right around the corner from the Bloodline 2.0 taking those titles from DIY to play into their story. So it just feels like that outside of factions, they don't know what to do with those tag team titles, and it just feels like they don't mean as much. So hopefully they can find a way to figure out this whole thing. And I agree with you 100%. Thank you for your hot take. I could be in a minority, but I think the reason Raw is better than SmackDown right now is because of the plethora of storylines running concurrently, from Punk and Drew to Liv and Rhea and Dom to Gable and Wyatt Six. SmackDown has the Bloodline, and that's about it. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And good use of those words, man. You hit me with the college words, okay? I'm just joking, but yeah, I agree with you. You're not in a minority. So before Triple H took over, one of the main things we used to say is the best Raws were always the ones who had a concurrent storyline going throughout the entire show. And now Raw has a reason to justify being 3 hours long, because back then people were like, Raw is too long and SmackDown is perfect because they had only 2 hours and they had like these short compact stories, but they got a lot out of those storylines. But now it's the other way around, where Raw is the better show and SmackDown needs to be longer. So like you said, you got 3 main storylines that are very interesting that you can use each hour for each one of these storylines and keep people invested. The thing is with SmackDown, the problem is that the Bloodline 2.0 storyline, even though that's the biggest storyline they have right now, is not nowhere as strong as the storylines that you listed that's happening on Raw. Now, if that storyline was a lot better right now, then I think people would look at SmackDown a little different, but I do agree that SmackDown still needs to add a 3rd hour in order to flush out a lot of storylines and also give other stories and wrestlers the opportunity to be on the show. So with this, you're not in the minority. I agree 100% with you. Again, since these stories are so good on Raw, that really helps them out a lot. Let's say if 2 out of 3 of these storylines were terrible, then that will really hurt Raw in my personal opinion. Wyatt Six should have debuted on SmackDown. Show has nothing going forward in between the opening and closing segments. That would at least give it a purpose. Now, I agree with the fact that the Wyatt Six would have made SmackDown a little bit more interesting, but I disagree with the idea that they should have debuted on SmackDown. I think them debuting on Raw makes all the sense in the world, as I said in the previous take, because Raw has so much time to do this. Now with SmackDown, if you have the Wyatt Six on there, that means if you're gonna, flesh out that story, even with the VHS tapes, even with them debuting there and things like that, that means you're gonna have to cut into the 2 hours, which will take away time from the wrestlers, take away from time from other storylines. And maybe if it goes the other way around, where the storylines or somebody matches go over the time, you're gonna have to take away time from the Wyatt Six, and that can definitely hurt their storyline in itself. But I get what you're saying. I know you want SmackDown to be better, but I think this isn't the way to go. I think the best way to do it is to make the storylines that already exist on SmackDown a lot better, and they're capable of doing it. They've done it before. I've seen it with my own eyes. So maybe after Roman returns, maybe you'll feel a little bit different about SmackDown. I'm still convinced that Chelsea Green should have won Money in the Bank. She has been more entertaining on SmackDown and social media. I gotta give it to you. Chelsea Green has been super entertaining on social media and on SmackDown. She is hilarious. She is funny. She has a great personality. But here's the thing. I'm going to make the case for Chelsea Green in the case why she shouldn't have won that. The case I will make for Chelsea Green is because these are my 2 picks. It was Tiffany Stratton and then Chelsea Green second. Tiffany Stratton didn't necessarily need to win that briefcase, because I feel like she would have had a title match at some point in time, because she's just too good and she's too over with the fans. So there was no way you're going to keep her from the title picture for a long time. That would have been a really bad idea. Now, the great reason that Tiffany Stratton won is because based on what we're seeing so far with Chelsea Green, it doesn't feel like WWE is really taking her seriously. And I'm not talking about because of her comedic elements or her comedic charm. Just when she's in the ring, you just see how she gets thrown around and how she just gets jobbed out, it feels like. And it feels like they weren't going to move from that. Now, if they did have her win the briefcase, I feel like the same storyline that they're kind of telling with Tiffany and Nia Jax, they could have imported that into the storyline between Chelsea Green and Piper Niven, and it would have worked out well if WWE did take her seriously. But I can't say what they could do with her in the future if what they're doing right now shows me that they don't really care to make her seem like a strong champion at this point. And I feel like if she won the championship, they would have tried to be funny again and have her lose the title in some silly way to make people laugh, and you don't want to go that route. So I think having Tiffany winning that briefcase was still, to this point, the great choice that WWE made. Street Profits deserve a championship run. They've actually had 2 championship runs in the past, I think, 5 years. They were the Raw Tag Team Champions and the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, which made them the second tag team to be the Triple Crown winners of Tag Team Champions in the history of the business. But that's neither here nor there. They need another title run right now. I'm with you on that because it's just crazy. They're so talented, but the thing that sucks is, as I said before, when factions come around, they take the crown. So those tag team championships are going to go to both factions right now. As we see right now, DIY is more than likely going to lose theirs to the Bloodline 2.0, but it will be great to see the Street Profits take those titles off the Bloodline 2.0 when the time is right. Please, I think that would be so amazing for those guys. They deserve so much. And my Chicago brethren, Montez Ford, we got to put a chip on him. No returns at SummerSlam. Well, I hope you're wrong about that. If that's going to be the case, Roman Reigns better return on SmackDown next week, because if not, it's going to be a lot of upset fans. And if you're right about this, that's not a good idea, WWE. You gotta do something. Somebody has to return there. A big name. Please don't do that to the fans in Cleveland. They are not going to be happy. Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, and Jacob Fatu do a triple shield powerbomb to Solo Sikoa joining Roman's side. I highly doubt that's going to happen. Especially if you're talking about SummerSlam, I highly doubt that's going to happen, because if that does happen there, then that just pretty much ends the whole Bloodline war, because now it's like, what's the point of watching it? And that's going to be very, very anticlimactic. Now, if they did this somewhere farther down the line somehow, then maybe, but right now, that will be a terrible, terrible decision. DIY deserve to be on the SummerSlam card. They honestly deserve it more than Bayley versus Nia, although I wish we'd have both matches on the card if I could. Now, I agree that DIY definitely should be on the SummerSlam card. That would be cool to see, but given that they're only doing like 5 to 6 matches now, you know, I can see why they were left off the card. But I do completely disagree that they deserve it more than Nia versus Bayley. I mean, Nia versus Bayley have had a storyline already going, and Bayley deserves more opportunities to be on the card anyways, because as champion, they've been leaving her off of posters. They haven't given her opportunities to defend her title as often on these cards for PLEs as much as other people. And as far as the storylines go, DIY, their match just got put together this week, you know, so it just didn't make sense for that to happen that way. But I feel you that DIY and the whole tag division deserve to get a lot more love, but you shouldn't sacrifice your singles champions for those type of matches. But again, I told somebody this the other day, when you had a champion, and I know a lot of people were upset about it, when you had a champion like Roman Reigns who barely wrestled on TV and barely wrestled at any pay-per-views, it opened up a slot for a tag team championship match to happen on those PLEs. And now that we have champions who are on TV on a week-to-week basis, that slot is no longer open, and unfortunately, the tag team titles have to get left off of Bad and Bougie, and that's just what happens at this point. The gauntlet match was good, but the Bloodline should have come out first to look very dominant and to make Jacob look even better. I highly disagree with this. You don't need the Bloodline to come out first and do that, because to have them come out and just run through the whole tag division on SmackDown, it's going to make that division look so weak, as opposed to making the Bloodline look that much stronger, because the Bloodline already looks strong. They don't need that. And by them allowing the Street Profits to go that far in the gauntlet and to lose possibly just because Montez Ford was injured, it actually protects the Street Profits and make them look a lot better. It makes you wonder, if Montez Ford was probably not injured, they probably would have had a better chance to win. So the direction they went with it, I felt like it was perfect specifically for the Street Profits. And again, they didn't need any more to make the Bloodline 2.0 to look more dominant than they already do. We already know Jacob Fatu is already dominant. The fact that you even brought his name up lets us know that you know for a fact that he already looks dominant. But thank you for the hot take. I feel like the WWE is starting to make Tonga Loa a backup dancer for the Bloodline and Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga be a tag team. Yeah, we seen it because, you know, Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu won the gauntlet, but that's why I made that video I made before where I thought that Tonga Loa was going to be the person to take the place of Paul Heyman as the kind of like the wise man, but not so much wise, but as opposed to the person who kind of, you know, plans and strategizes these things out, because it seemed like Tonga Loa isn't going to be that person that's going to be in the ring a lot, which it came to be true, but it makes you wonder what exactly is Tonga Loa going to be doing as opposed to, like, you know, only having one eyeball. I don't know what their plans is for him in the group, but I'll be very interested to know in the future. But you are telling the truth, he is kind of like the background dancer at this point. Giving your champion a backstage interview is crazy work. Put him in front of the audience. I don't care if it's taped, I'm mad. Yeah, I guess I agree, but again, I think the problem is what we talked about with SmackDown is because it's not long enough to have him out there, so that's probably why they did the pre-tape thing, just as a guarantee that they know how long that part of the show is going to be, which again, SmackDown needs to be 3 hours long, so yeah, I get why you're mad. So it's time for my SmackDown hot take, and I think that there is a possibility that Mia Yim could in fact turn on Bayley and cost her her title at SummerSlam, you know, because it feels like that she's been on TV a lot more lately, which is great for her, but she's been around Bayley a whole lot more as well and been taking damage like she did on SmackDown this past Friday, and it gotta be leading up to something. So that's my hot take. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for submitting. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Salute, peace, have a good day.